Britain's Independent says voters in other countries could decide our election. Oxford University researchers say votes from Americans abroad could make the difference in some battleground states. Traditionally, very few Americans living outside the United States cast a ballot. An effort is now underway to change that. Jonathan Vigliotti is in London, where the overseas campaign is in full swing.
American politics has invaded the UK, from a debate hall in Westminster to the streets just outside. All this pageantry is part of a Get Out the Vote campaign aimed at the 300,000 American voters living here.
Register to vote! Register to vote!
The message is ramping up from Trump supporters in Israel to Clinton backers in Mexico. There's an estimated 6 million Americans living abroad. Of them, nearly 3 million are eligible to vote, but only around 5% voted in 2012, a small fraction of the 57% of Americans that turned out to vote in the States.
It's difficult to track who's voting.
Patrick Andelick studies voter turnout at Oxford University.
Does an expatriate's vote really matter?
I certainly think it does, and it obviously matters more depending on the state they're voting in. States are very close in the polling recently. It definitely could matter.
Florida Secretary of State.
Just rewind to election night 2000.
Get these folks and hold on to the bedstead or something. 629 votes separate Bush and Gore in Florida.
George Bush and Al Gore were neck and neck.
Because, Dan, don't forget, we haven't counted those absentee ballots that came in from overseas.
And when they did, Bush won with just a 537 margin.
If those votes hadn't been included, Al Gore would have carried the state and the presidency by 202 votes.
Andelick says Ohio could be this year's Florida. If polls used in the Oxford study prove accurate, Trump would need a margin of 5,600 voters to swing the state in his direction. And so this year's overseas campaign carries on to raise voter turnout above that 5% mark and possibly swing an unpredictable election. For CBS This Morning, Jonathan Vigliotti, London.
It's really interesting to look at it in that context about Florida in the 2000 election.
Absolutely. Yeah. It is. The State Department's been tweeting and getting information out to get people registered and tell them how they can vote overseas. So there's a push by the administration.
So that means they have to get the absentee ballots in by a certain date.
Right.